The 7 deadly sins are negative traits of people that can be manifested as a figure. There are loads of characters in Ben 10. Some are good, some are bad, but the main thing is that there are 7 characters who perfectly represent the deadly sins. Starting with greed, typically shown as an intense selfish desire for something, especially wealth, power, or food. We're going to focus on 2 words there, selfish and wealth, and no character better describes this than Argit. In the majority of his appearances, he is displayed as ever-growing greed and constant hunger for more and more, just to fuel his selfish desires. All 3 of his Alien Force appearances displays his greedy desires with no regard for how it affects anyone else. In fact, his second appearance in Simple has him selling guns to both sides of this war, and he's using the same guns and just painting them different colors. This is a planet that's detrimentally suffering from war, with no backing force on both sides, and Argit is profiting off these people fighting. Now, he does start a private security service in Undertown, but the main thing he did that for was just to get more money and power, as we see him become the president of the Earth in the future, and the Argit Tricks timeline kinda just speaks for itself. He doesn't have any remorse for his actions, and is entirely self-centered, but he's not the most self-centered character. Pride is described as a feeling of pleasure relating to one's self-worth. Why can't I say this word? Anyways, a feeling of pleasure relating to one's self-worth. Damn it! And often derived from one's personal achievements, talents, or possessions. The sinful aspect coming from one's belief of themselves being above others. And there's only one real option for this. There isn't a species more prideful than the intelligent ones, but the most prideful of all is Dr. Psychobos. It's pretty well known that cerebrocrustaceans have a rivalry with the Galvans, and despite the Galvans being smarter, Dr. Psychobos has never backed out of his hatred for the Galvans. He has a burning vendetta for Azimuth, and always addresses himself as the smartest being in the universe, despite Azimuth literally existing. What's interesting is that he'll allow himself to be a servant to basically anyone. This includes Malware and Kyber, the Incursions, Maltruan, and even Ben. But he always does it with the intent that he's better than his bosses, and he only does it for his personal gain, not caring about the cause. This is especially strange considering that outcomes usually end up with him in jail. He undermines anyone else's efforts, and he believes success by a lower life form is purely dumb luck. He has the largest ego in the Ben 10 universe, which fits considering he has a massive head. Lust is a pretty interesting one, especially for Ben 10. Lust is usually an intense hunger for something, typically connected with a desire for sexual pleasure. It's kind of hard choosing a character from a children's cartoon for this, but I think I actually have the perfect choice. The most lustful character in Ben 10 is Ben. Now, hear me out. Ben has had a ton of love interest, and his mind is just always on girls. There's a ton of cases in Ultimate Alien and Omniverse where Ben's brain is on nothing but the opposite gender. There's literally an episode in Omniverse dedicated to his love interest having to battle it out for his love, and it's oddly kind of a good episode. I mean, it makes sense why it's in these 2 series in particular, because it's when Ben was revealed to the world and he became famous, but it's still kind of strange. You know what, just for fun, let's go through all the times when Ben was obsessing over women in UA and OV. Starting with Ben talking to these random girls at Julie's tennis game. He kisses Jennifer Nocturne on live TV and goes on a date with her. He has an episode-long romance with Eunice, which is weird considering that they're basically family, and they meet up again on Primus and do more questionable things, but look, I don't want to count Eunice as a love interest, but like, technically she is, and it's just weird considering she's made from Gwen's DNA and just whatever. Ben reconnects with Elena, we'll say. He went on a date with Gwen's best friend in the past, quite possibly leading to her being disabled. He's interested in some random sheriff's daughter who's a fan of him. This one's actually a personal favorite because I just find it funny.
My daughter's nuts about you.
Yeah? She cute?
Ben.
Sorry, reflex.
Ben is unknowingly flirting with Esther the whole episode in Hot Stretch until towards the end of the episode when he actually likes her and thinks he has a shot with her. Ben tries to chat up a girl in a bus where he's been de-aged to his 10-year-old form. He tries to win back Julie and then goes to Esther when it doesn't work. He has a crush on Zack Saturday's mother. This one's really weird. He flirts with Atea as Bullfrag. This absolutely disgusting episode where 3 girls fight over him. He has romantic encounters with Kai in 3 separate episodes while he's with Esther. And again, this whole episode. I don't know what the counter says, but that number is probably ridiculous. Keep in mind, by the way, that pretty much all of these scenarios happen when Ben is in or believes he's in a relationship. So I hope you can now see why Ben is my choice for lust. Gluttony is the overindulgence and overconsumption of anything to the point of waste, typically associated with excess food. This one was a toss-up, but ultimately I decided to go for Malware. I feel like some of you guys had different answers for this, so I'll go through 3 honorable mentions soon. But for now, let's talk about Malware. Throughout season 1 and 2, we see Malware getting bigger and more refined as he eats more technology. His first upgrade comes from him absorbing the energy of the helix in the flashback, which basically kicks off his hunger for power. In another flashback, we see him absorbing the tachyon cannon, which turns him into his third form, and his third form extends further, growing in size in Showdown Part 2 after absorbing Humongosaur and Weibig. Keeping on Weibig in the same episode, he does more absorbing and turns into the final kaiju form, seemingly at least 7 times the size of a Toku star. He also decides at the end of the episode, since he's already insane, that he might as well just eat the entirety of Galvan Prime and become, as I quote, Planet Malware. In fact, even his defeat in the flashback of Showdown Part 1 was because he absorbed too much energy from the Omnitrix. Now, this is all a pretty good argument for his gluttonous tendencies, but you have to remember that this is all caused because of his goal of trying to be repaired by his creator, which ended up consuming his life and his motives. Malware is my choice for Gluttony, but let's still run through some characters you might have had in mind. Oddly enough, they all come from Ultimate Alien. The first is Kevin, and his gluttonous rage for power when he taps into his Osmosian behavior. In his human form, he doesn't represent the sin, the closest thing being his obsession with money. The main thing comes from his mutated forms, especially Ultimate Kevin and his hunger for power. The second character is Charmcaster and her overindulgence in her quest to revive her father. This basically consumed her life and made her go so far as to kill people to achieve this goal. She even killed Ben, Gwen, and Kevin. I didn't pick her because I didn't really think it would have counted for Gluttony as well as Malware, and I thought Argit would fit better for Greed. The last character is Pandor. As we see in Too Hot to Handle, he's eating these radioactive push pops and he's getting bigger while doing it. This is technically the best example of Gluttony we have, but he only appeared in 1 episode compared to Malware's 2 seasons. Any of these characters work, but Malware is my choice for Gluttony. The next sin being the reluctance to work and make an effort, Sloth was definitely the hardest one to pick out of this list, as there isn't really a Ben 10 character that stands out as being lazy. However, once you look outside the box, it becomes very clear. Technically 2 characters, the sin of Sloth is represented by Bellicus and Serena. If you don't know who these characters are, they are basically Ben's internal Alien X personalities, representing the voices of rage and compassion respectively. These guys are straight up lazy as hell. It's most evidently seen in their debut appearances in X = Ben + 2. After Ben restores the dam, these guys didn't let Ben do anything. He tries to use Alien X to get rid of the incursions and suggests a bunch of ideas, and these 2 numpties just say no to absolutely everything, without even giving him reason for it. Even Ben calls us out, and Serena starts crying. In fact, all of their subsequent appearances, they're just lazy as hell. The Forge of Creation, they don't even want to hear what Ben has to say. When the universe was being destroyed, they just sat there and watched. And when Ben was getting rocked by the Galactic Gladiator, they didn't even let him move. And their solution to this that they agreed on was to let Ben do whatever he wants while they just sit in a corner and argue all day. These guys just don't want to do anything but argue. Even when the universe is exploding, they just care about arguing with each other. If you guys got a better choice for this spot, leave it down in the comments below. But for now, this is my choice for the sin of Sloth. Envy is up next, and it's described as a painful or resentful awareness of an advantage enjoyed by another, and a desire to possess the same advantage. There's only one character who fits this role, and that is the devious double himself, Albedo. He is the character whose downfall was fueled by his envy of someone else, specifically Azimuth. He was originally Azimuth's assistant, so working next to him for so many years, it's expected that he would have a little envious feelings towards him, especially since they work side by side and Azimuth becomes Galvan Prime's first thinker and pretty much their president. While Albedo was still stuck as his assistant, he inadvertently helped Malware become more powerful by fixing the helix and stating that not even Azimuth could do that, and flexing his success to Ben, showing his jealousy for his Omnitrix. This leads to the next point being his envy for Ben wielding the Omnitrix, as he didn't believe a human was worthy of that. He requested Azimuth to build him one, but Azimuth stated there couldn't be 2 Omnitrixes. He was fired later on and started working on a replica from the knowledge he knew about how to build one. But since it was linked to Ben's DNA, he turned into a negative version of Ben, giving him another jealousy to deal with. In fact, in Omniverse, he tries to steal Azimuth's brain to fuse it with his own. If this isn't envy, then I don't know what is. The final sin is up, and that is wrath, described as a strong feeling of hatred or resentment with a desire for vengeance. Unfortunately, I can't pick wrath for this entry, but I've got the next best thing. I saved it for last for a reason because it's the most iconic villain. I think you all know who it is. It's the big and bad Vilgax. I feel like there are other villains that may fit this category, but just out of respect, I feel like I has to go to Vilgax. He's the living embodiment of aggression and evil. Since the 1700s, he's had one goal, and that is to obtain the Omnitrix by any means possible. In fact, in Omniverse, he just decides since he can't have the Omnitrix, he's just gonna blow them all up. He's always been just a brute force villain and relied on nothing but his vengeance for this teenager's watch. I mean, hey, vengeance of Vilgax, ring a bell? He even conquered his own planet so he could prepare to defeat Ben. and did the same to 9 other planets. He was willing to cut off a 10-year-old's arm to get the Omnitrix and simply dispose of him afterwards. He is the force of evil against Ben, and that very much serves as the sin of wrath. And that does it. That is my 7 deadly sins as Ben 10 characters. Let me know what you thought of my choices down in the comments below, and let me know what characters you would have picked as the 7 deadly sins. If this video does well enough, I'll do a part 2 with the 7 heavenly virtues as Ben 10 characters. But yeah, I don't really have much else to say for now. Remember, if you guys want to contribute to a future video, go over to my community tab and comment your best Ben 10 theories. And that's all I really got for now. I'm Rizzyrez, and until next time, I'll see you later. Peace.